So our first speaker today is Dr. Michael Rosemann, who's professor and head of the Information Systems School, Science and Engineering faculty here at the Queensland University of Technology. QUT's Information Systems School includes QUT's Library and Information Science disciplines and the Business Process Management discipline. Under Michael's leadership as head of school, he's established 3 industry-funded chairs in the Information Systems School: the Woolworths Chair in Retail Innovation, the Brisbane Airport Corporation Chair in Airport Innovation, and the PwC Chair in Digital Economy. Dr. Rosemann is a disruptive thinker with a digital mind and a passion for corporate innovation systems, revenue resilience, digital mindfulness, process design, and research management. His work is focused on creating exciting future worlds with today's possibilities that make current practices obsolete. This past year, together with Monica Bradley, he produced the Digital Week podcast, which you can find on the Chair in the Digital Economy website, talking about the latest developments in the digital economy. Michael speaks at many local, national, and international conferences. If Michael is offered speaker fees, he always donates them to the QUT Learning Potential Fund, and I don't believe we've offered him the speaker fee, but if we had, it would be going to a very, very good cause. So please join me in welcoming Michael. The title of his presentation is A Digital Mind, Disruptive Thinking in a Connected World.
Thank you, Bob, for those kind words, and thanks, Sue, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, welcome, everyone. I'm heading QT's Information Systems School, so we typically have IT students in front of us, and I think the gender balance is exactly the opposite in our classrooms. So it's great to be here and great to share some thoughts. And I want to talk about age and what it means to us, and I try to avoid statements you've heard before. In fact, what you see, the picture here that I used as a background picture is a picture from Romania. So with Romania, you might think about Transylvania or Dracula. That's the train station in Bucharest. It's a digital library. So what you do is you grab your smartphone, you scan any of those books, and then immediately are taken to a digital library, and then you can borrow or purchase books depending on what book it is. I've got a similar video that I typically use when I talk to Woolworths. When you go to South Korea and you wait for your subway, you take your phone and you purchase items that are frequently purchased. You do this before 1 p.m. and they're home delivered by 7 p.m. There are a couple of things we learn from this. In the digital age, we come to you as opposed to you come to us. This is true for more or less everything. And this is a big, big disruption. And this is what I want to focus on. To make it very simple, in the old days, we focused on automation. So we used software, technologies, processes, and what we did, we made corporations, including libraries, better. We improved search capabilities or indexing. We created web pages. But the assumption is that people, students, patients, consumers, passengers come to us. You want to fly with Qantas, you need a boarding pass. You want to do banking, you have to remember passwords, bank account or BSB numbers. That's the age of automation, which was driven by efficiency gains. It was the world of corporations. People were nothing. They existed highly redundant and took part in the complexity of these organizations. We're now in the age of digitization. And the age of digitization is the opposite. The digital world empowers people much more than corporations. The digital world has given much more into the hands of our students or readers or customers than it probably has empowered libraries. In the digital world, we give people a digital identity. In the digital world, we allow individuals to bring their own data. I will make all my slides available. So in the digital world, it's all about personalization. For university, in the age of automation, I created content, I had my students, and my students consumed content. And we had like 100% share of education. You came to QUT, and to a large extent, we, academics, library, were the main source of your resource. The share of educational attention is now reducing. Students can shop anywhere, and yes, QUT might be a bit of an orchestrator, but 100% might become 70 or 20%, and our key focus will be the kind of orchestration. Less production and more personalization. So that's what's happening in that age where a lot of digital public goods are emerging, where nobody's excluded, where nobody competes, and everything is accessible on your fingertips. In the age of automation, my focus was on becoming efficient. Kodak, the day they died, was one of the most efficient companies on this planet. People were flying globally to admire the beautiful straight-through processing at Kodak. Kodak died not because they were not well organized, but because they became non-relevant. So you can be the most automated library on this planet that probably doesn't guarantee survival. We could be the most organized university on this planet, but if you prefer an up-to-date LinkedIn profile and not a 10-year-old MBA degree, we probably get non-relevant. So this is what we call the economy of people. So we move from the economy that was around corporations to the economy of people. And understand later, Jonathan will probably talk about the economy of things. This is the robot who wants to consume library services. I need an update. I'm a robot. What do I need to know? I'm a new environment. Queensland government prepares itself for a world where homes will talk to the government. I'm about to be flooded, and my owner is not at home. I'm a car, I had an accident, and my driver is severely injured. I want to lodge a notification to a hospital. So this is the economy of things, of smart devices that is emerging, when on the other side, you don't have human being anymore. But maybe they still need some sort of update, some sort of content that is not a human being. But today, we just focus on the second type of economy. And in the second type of economy, the people in this economy have a very different set of priorities. So what's wrong in this picture? Forget about the coffee for a moment. Anything that disturbs you? Sorry? She's holding a phone, yeah? So typically, people are supposed to concentrate on driving. Now, default reaction is driving is top priority, everything else is a distraction. We work with a car insurance company. 22% of all accidents are related to mobile distraction in Australia. The idea was I can use an accelerometer and I protect your life. So I switch off your phone while you drive so you can focus on driving. It's like Gmail. After 10 p.m., they used to ask you 2 questions. So if you're too drunk, you better not send an email to the girl you just met in a pub. So it's the same idea. I protect your life. Now we took this idea to the drivers. And what would this girl tell us if I tell her I switch off your phone so you can focus on driving? What's her biggest problem in that situation? She has to drive. Very good. Driving is a massive distraction. When I'm 16, I start to drive. There's nothing exciting about driving. Driving is boring and highly repetitive. Our vintage never thought like this. In our world, the reality, the physical world, was top priority. Everything else is a distraction. So you go through the streets of wherever you live, and you see people in a restaurant or at a bus stop using their devices, and you believe they're distracted. They're not distracted. They just prefer the digital over the physical experience. So we have to go beyond. Digital is a distraction. Digital is a second alternative I have. For many people, it's more attractive. So when I'm a digital native since I'm 6, of course driving is disruption. To give you an idea, we've got roughly 1.2 billion cars on this planet. Imagine every car drives for an hour. If you give the world a driverless car, will unlock 400,000 years every year. That's 400,000 years of living. That is 400,000 years of probably new consumers of library services. So while, yes, a few taxi drivers will lose their job, there are 400,000 years that need to be entertained. And people will look for educational well-being because you want to survive a lot of automation. So I'm of the total belief that the demand for library service will increase because we'll automate many aspects. I don't have to drive, and that's why Google is working on the driverless car. Google unlocks 400,000 years of digital attention. Google probably couldn't care less about you and your car, but they get access to 400,000 years every year. So item number 1, the physical world could be a distraction, and we unlock 400,000 years very soon. Second, in the old world of automation, as I highlighted, I came to you. Yeah? So you would go to your GP, to your insurance. Some people still line up at queues at Australia Post at lunchtime. In the new world, companies take part in my life. I've got 3 friends that bought sensors for their parents, and instead of sending dad every fortnight to the doctor, they just stream the data to a trusted doctor, and the trusted doctor on a Saturday afternoon has a glass of wine, looks at the data, and if anything is wrong, calls him. I don't go to the doctor, my data goes to the doctor. I've got a Fitbit, and my Fitbit streams data to my personal coach. A Happy Fork, where you brush your teeth, sends the data to your dentist. Nest at home sends the data somewhere. And so what happens all of a sudden, in that digital world, we allow, if we trust the other side, to take part in our life. And I'll show you a couple of examples in that space. But this is fundamental. In this world, we take part in the life of people. This is not about the process within the library. This is about the birth to death value chain. And how digital all of a sudden gives us a different quality of life. But we want to trust the other side, of course. So who do I trust in the digital age? Well, I trust my provider. I in the old days, would go to a library, and I expect that you give me advice. And that's the same with my GP or my financial advisor or my academic who teaches me. That's trust grounded in your profession. But we've got three new types of trust emerging, and they come from the kind of peer-to-peer or reader-to-reader community. So in the old days, we couldn't imagine the kind of reader-to-reader or consumer-to-consumer interactions. But this is what constitutes the success in terms of uptake of WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tinder, and even Uber. These companies are beyond competition because they do peer-to-peer so beautiful. So I trust either experts, and Amazon is doing this. Yeah? I know someone who knows the topic really well, tell me what they're reading. And I just blindly buy whatever they read because they know what they do. Sometimes I trust people like me. Anyone knows Patients Like Me? You go to patientslikeme.com and you find people with the same symptoms or the same problem like you. I want to talk to someone with similar demographics and a similar pattern so we can talk about treatments or ideas. Amazon at some point had readers like me on their webpage, as you might know. So the idea of someone who purchases books like me, not 88% will buy this book, but someone like me, what would they purchase? And someone, I trust my friends. I bought a bike recently, or a dishwasher, and you don't want to become a dishwashing expert just because the dishwasher is broken. So you go to your shop and say, which of these two dishwashers should I buy? But your shopping assistant is biased, so you ask them, who of my friends has those dishwashers? Because these are the guys that I trust. What do you mean you can't tell me? We at QT get questions from students who ask us, what did my friends pick as a minor in engineering? What do you mean QT? You can't tell me? I trust my friends much more than I trust you. So I want you as an organization to become a broker. I maintain all my network of people that I trust, and now I want to use them. So in the digital world, depending on the individual, we have to pull out different types of trust. The trust grounded in me in a profession, me as a broker to experts, me as a broker to people like you, or me as a broker to the friends that come with you. You bring your own data, you bring your own network. And so this is a new way of unlocking trust in the digital age. And what we need to do in this digital age, we have to build what we call digital intelligence. So in the old days, it was pragmatic intelligence. You know where the berries and bears are. And then we printed books, and academic intelligence, reading and writing became popular. And when people were well educated, we talked a lot about emotional intelligence. And now we talk about digital intelligence. Digital intelligence keeps you within the community. And digital intelligence has got three layers. Digital literacy means you know what button to press. I know where to find an app. I know when to use Evernote. It's all the kind of one-on-one digital can-do activities. How do I do my privacy settings in Facebook? This is digital literacy. Digital behavior means once I understand the mechanics of the digital economy, how do I behave? Is it appropriate to post this tweet, this picture, to share this information? So these are like the ethics of digital behavior. And the third component is digital elegance. How do I write a beautiful blog? How do I write a tweet that goes viral? How do I create the most stunning Instagram impression? So these are three different layers. And that's what we try to nurture now. And you could think about how do I measure digital intelligence? How do I nurture digital intelligence? So that's a new kind of skill set. And depending if I'm an 8-year-old, a 25-year-old, or a 65-year-old, I need very different types of digital intelligence. How do I learn in the digital age? What does digital intelligence mean for me as a parent? What does it mean for me when I retire? So digital intelligence, I think, needs to be unpacked, needs to be communicated, needs to be nurtured. And I can see a tremendous role that libraries play in the future to nurture digital intelligence, to be clear on the sort of digital intelligence that is required, but also to go beyond the mechanics, the digital literacy, but to truly educate us on, I think, where we are as a society still low, digital behavior, and then even more the beauty of digital behavior, the digital elegance. So in a nutshell, where I see the digital world heading is, this is not about us taking part in the life of a library. It's about the library taking part in the life of us. We often call this reactive and proactive. Reactive is when the customer comes to me. Proactive is when I come to the customer. And I elaborate on this later. But this really means to capitalize on the fact that people live a quite intensive digital life, and I need to work out to what extent can I take part in this life. In a life that is incredibly opportunity rich, and a lot of people don't know what they don't know. They're not even smart enough to search anymore. So this is this kind of tipping point that we have right now. So for you, what I believe the case is, we need to work out how ambitious we are. A lot of entities, not only libraries, are thinking about makers and spakers and maker spaces. So it's a very, very competitive environment. To compete for access to entrepreneurs is an incredibly competitive environment. Australia Post, Woolworths, Suncorp, all these organizations are now embedding entrepreneurs as part of their organization. It's a race for the next brain and to unpack quickly who has got the next big idea. And the second thing that is important in the age of digitization, it allows us to create opportunities, not because we've got a problem, but because we can. So that means in the digital age, we need to be creative, we need to be visionary, we have to think about what is possible and not what is broken. In the age of automation, we always fixed what was broken. As I highlighted, Kodak did this brilliantly, but Kodak is dead. In the digital age, you have to ask yourself, what is possible? The age of automation was analysis intensive. The age of digitization is design intensive. I have to create something without being driven by a problem. And it's an entirely new challenge that a lot of organizations and people are facing. So I believe what we do in the digital age is very much a function of our own level of ambition. So key visualization that I'm using quite often in this context is this diagram. So the red line describes what we call a hygiene factor. You all know what a hygiene factor is, I guess. So that's the fact that you get paid when you have a job, that you have a window when you've got a home, so that your train arrives at a decent time. The fact that I upload my slides on my students is a hygiene factor. Probably in 1 year, the fact that you can follow my lectures on your live phone live is a hygiene factor. It won't excite them. It would say, finally, QT arrived in 2016. So hygiene factors is when my customer says, finally, and not thank you. To give you an example, I was at the Department of Human Services in Canberra, Centrelink. And they said, Michael, after years and years, we gave the world, we gave Australia MyGov. One record for all Australians. And you can talk to Etoro or Centrelink or Child Support Agency with the same identity. And they asked me, what do you think? And I said, that's a massive step for DHS. It's a very small step for mankind. This is what I expect. So the problem is what is a massive step forward for us as an organization is in the eyes of someone who's very digitally savvy, a small step. And so most companies we are working with are on the bottom left. Bottom left corner is where you're busy being busy. You always chase the next problem. You feel like I always have more to fix than to design, and you never really come to the far right corner. And if you finally arrive there, your customer is quite ungrateful and just expects that you do this already. So the red line is typically driven by today's problems. is reactive, and it's driven by efficiency gains. The blue line is design intensive. In the blue line, you create entire new experiences. The blue line is driven by tomorrow's opportunity. The blue line typically creates entire new experiences. I give you an example for us as a university. The red line is us providing highly accessible content, meaning I give a lecture, you can probably, you of course can see the audio file, you have a high appetite to see a video file, not recorded, but real life where possible. Our students are frustrated, they can't press a like it button. It's a commodity for them. Like if we go live with a like it button, meaning I can go to the lectures that my friends like. We arrive in, let's say, 2010. Today, it's not even feasible. That's a typical hygiene factor. I like this lecture, I like this content, I like this podcast. The fact that this is not out of the box, but available for every single fast food restaurant is for them a big surprise. Once I make a like it button available, it allows individuals to follow people they trust, in this case, friends. So that's a typical hygiene factor. So this is where today I'm in big trouble if an hour after my lecture, certain material is not uploaded. And we study this, and we asked our students what's a hygiene factor, and every year the set of hygiene factors is fastly growing. Blue line is now creating something that even our students could not articulate, and to come up with something like this is very hard. Hygiene factors are easy, blue line design is difficult. I'll give you an example. One idea we were floating around is the idea of becoming your trusted educational well-being partner. So you know how you kind of look after financial well-being and your superannuation. You look after your physical well-being and once a year do a cancer checkup. But you typically spend more time on your annual holiday than on educational well-being. If it's true that 47% of all jobs will be gone in the next 20 years, you better look after your educational well-being. So what will happen is that our students, the day they graduate, they're like a used car. They leave campus and they deteriorate in value. They go kind of cold turkey in terms of education. They have a massive appetite to be educated. It's just there's no more plug-in point to your university. So they are in that bottom left corner. They're busy being busy. They don't even know what they need to know anymore. And then they wake up 1, 2, 3 years later, run into their former lecture and say, what are you teaching now? And I don't know this. And my whole wisdom disappears between my fingers. Now, we talked to a large bank in town and said, could we do to our students what your IT vendor is doing to their software? Meaning, the bank pays 70% to their IT vendors, and in return, the IT vendor keeps the software up to date. Could we do the same with our students? Would you pay us 17% and we keep the students up to date? We would stream content to them. Our students don't know what they don't know. So proactive, not reactive learning, we come to them. We come to them based on their like it button. Yeah, I really like this lecture, this content, and by the way, that's my new profession. QET, now that you spend less time on production and more time on personalization, why don't you stream content that matters to me? I don't know what I don't know, so I expect that you provide that to me. That's a blue line idea. Today, you can't buy this service anywhere in the world. That's educational well-being or educational well-being partnership. And that will unlock an incredible amount of time. Having in mind, every week I save 5 hours because I don't drive anymore. That's 5 hours I could invest in educational well-being. So this is where we see massive appetite for entire new services. But they require that I know a little about you so I can come close to you. You share your risk appetite, your financial situation with your banker. You exchange your health data with your GP or your doctor. Would you share parts of your educational data with someone that you trust, like a university that you spent the last 3 years with? And in return, they take care of your educational well-being. So the blue line is relevant in the age of digitalization. You don't do this blue line really well, and you're out of business. In the age of automation, you are streamlining your business. In the age of digitalization, you make sure that you're relevant. Kodak died because they didn't see Instagram popping up. This is not about storing pictures. This is about exchanging visual experiences. And you miss that boat, and you're gone. And you see this left, right, and center. Monday evening in this room, we had a gentleman who created Carhood. Anyone knows Carhood? You know the old days when you went to an airport and you paid for parking? You park Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and instead of paying 200, you make 200. And you get your car washed, by the way. Available since a couple of months. So here's someone who totally disrupts, and it doesn't matter how efficient you are, but if you're in Melbourne, 20% of my income comes from car parking, and here are a bunch of students who buy a few soccer fields and destroy my business. This is blue line versus red line. You're obsessed with the red line, and you're out of business. The problem is we do red line really well. We don't do blue line really well. We've got a lot of analysts. We've got very few designers in-house. The blue line is what we call innovation systems, where we ideate, incubate. The red line is where we exploit. The blue line is where we explore. This is a massive opportunity for libraries to populate and help with the blue line. Ideation as a service, incubation as a service. And increasingly, companies realize that their more or less exclusive focus on the red line is not sufficient. They need access to the blue line. They just don't have blue line thinking in-house. The idea of inspiration, ideation, incubation as a service is something that a lot of libraries could capitalize on. So to be normative and to give you some ideas, I want to spend the next part of my presentation here to take you through 7 traits of what I call a digital mind. So maybe you're not a digital native, so you don't have a digital mind by nature, but you can build a digital mind by nurture. So I'll take you from the top left to the bottom right. So the first recommendation is to measure share of digital attention. So if you're a digital company, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, they will know what is their share of digital attention. Means every time you grab your little friend, what percentage do you spend with me? All other companies have no clue. Share of digital attention is a leading indicator to relevance or for other companies' revenue. So this is about making sure that search engine optimization or management is well done, so that I make sure that I stay relevant. In the perfect world, this is the app that is on your home screen. We do this with Centrelink right now and said, what does someone like Centrelink have to do so you open up their app every 24 hours to maximize the share of digital attention? To give an idea, we work with Woolies. People go to Dan Murphy, grab their phone and say, buy, buy, buy. They don't buy at Dan Murphy, they buy at Amazon or Aldi. High physical attention, very low digital attention. It's this race for digital attention now that is open and that we have to win. Second one is, once I have this bandwidth, once I have a decent share of digital attention, once I become your trusted educational well-being partner, I've got one financial advisor, one medical advisor, and one educational advisor, I'd probably be willing to share signals with you. So this car that just crashed here, and this is today, not tomorrow, is sending signals to the hospitals in my neighborhood. And then they provide an ambulance service while I'm still unconscious. The car might talk to me and said, Michael, don't get up. Based on the impact, I believe you've got a spinal injury. This is today, not tomorrow. So out of the box, I send out these signals. We have this in the medical field. We have this in our smart homes. This is a world that's about finding and not searching. Google's biggest threat to the search engine is the find engine. And I think we're coming to this tipping point. People are typically not smart enough to search. They don't know what they don't know. And the find engine is about that I find you. We've got a master's in biofabrication where we teach how to use 3D printing for body parts. But most people don't wake up and say, I wish what QUT is offering under the master's in biofabrication, because you don't know that it exists. And so this is about the book that finds you, about you finding the book. And this is in the digital age, when I come to you and you don't come to me, like in the train station in Bucharest, what needs to occur. And I call this the Predictive Library. So the Reactive Library is based on the idea that I'm consciously incompetent. I know what I don't know, so I go and grab a book or whatever kind of media I need. But the user's in the driver's seat. The Predictive library is based on the idea that you have now a clue what you should look for. This is where the personalization kicks in. So the Predictive Library is based on the assumption that you're unconsciously incompetent. You go out with a smile to bed, but you shouldn't. And this is where I provide advice based on whatever you are willing to share with me. And so that's the notion of a Predictive Library. You could think about this in 3 stages even. So you could think about the Reactive Library, classical, where corporations mattered. You come, you search, and I just react. So there's a live event, an assignment coming up or a new job coming up, and that motivates you to search. The Proactive Library reacts before the user reacts. I know that you're involved in this minor, and I suggest you do the following. We work with the government where I could say, I know that something happened in your life. Let's say a child was born, and I registered your child for the school in the neighborhood. You don't have to do this. Feel free to override this, but the invisible government will do this for you and on your behalf. The predictive organization goes one step further and reacts before a live event even occurred. Let's say I know that 47% of all jobs will be gone in the next 20 years. You're at the moment sitting on a job that might not exist in the next 5 years. But while you're still employed, as a responsible educational well-being partner, I contribute to your upskilling. That's a predictive organization. That's a bit like Amazon sending you a book before you even ordered it. That's a predictive organization. So most companies are highly reactive. They maintain web pages. But I was recently at Urban Utilities, the water providers here in Brisbane. And on that web page, you still can report water leakage. I'm quite sure you can't do this in 5 years, because they will know there's water leakage before you know it. It's like your credit card statements. 10 years ago, you read your credit card statements in the search for some fraud. Today, your bank calls you before you even saw your credit card statement. So banks have become very proactive. And I guess that libraries or universities overall will move from reactive to proactive to the more the other side trusts us, the more we know about their life, become even a very predictive organization. In the medical field, I'm quite sure we have this already, because this is, in many cases, crucial for survival. The third component, so share of digital attention, digital signals, the third component is what we call bring your own data. Yeah, you remember 10 years ago, people talk about bring your own device. Now we talk about bring your own data. The most obvious one, I bring my own friends. If you're a customer of Combank, you can transfer money within 3 years to your Facebook friends. There's no more BSB an account number, you click on a face. Mobile banking with Facebook is the second most popular way to transfer money in Australia. You just throw the money at a friend, and then the friend tells the bank which account they have. So you bring your own network. It's like Airbnb. I'd rather have friends than foreigners or people I don't know. So I shouldn't say foreigners, people I don't know staying at my place. So in certain cases, I trust friends more, or I just want to capitalize on my friends. So this is where you bring your own data. There's a company called MyWave in New Zealand, and they provide systems for families. So you can share your life with companies that you trust. This is not a customer relationship management system, it's a vendor relationship management system. It's not companies managing the relationship with me, it's me managing my relationship with companies. My terms and conditions. And the idea is down the track to use something like blockchain, which is behind Bitcoin, so data cannot be copied. So I give you access to my profile, and in return, I get some sort of advice from you. But I bring my own data. I only exist once. This is my very personalized digital identity. And when you follow Malcolm Turnbull or Australia Post, creating trusted digital identities where people bring their own data is crucial to unlock business models in the digital economy. The fourth one is to create a community. Now, this is a bit of a digital economy index. You can ask yourself, how many of these symbols do you recognize? You ask your kids the same question, and probably they recognize 3 times more than you do. There's one thing all these organizations have in common, and that is they get better the bigger they are. So another business secret in the digital economy is that we get better the bigger we are. Most companies are getting worse the bigger they are. Classical libraries, more customer means higher probability that you don't find the book. So our service deteriorates the bigger we are. All digital companies get better the bigger they are. All digital companies are beyond competition. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Search have a market share between 60 to 90% for that reason. Not another industry is doing this. Now the question is, how can a library move, let's say, from a red line to the exponentially growing line? So that means for the kind of different hubs, and here the kind of the Carnegie model, the kind of the different hubs that we provide as a library today and tomorrow, what sort of communities would emerge? To give you an example, we work with a local bank. If I give you a mortgage, I'm on the red line. If I am the trusted provider of Australia's biggest community of homeowners, I work on the blue line. If I'm a car insurance company that insures your car every 12 months, it's a red line. If I broker car and ride sharing among the 4 million car owners that I have, I'm on the blue line. If I provide car parking at the airport for you, red line. If I take your car and rent it out, blue line. If I'm a library that provides a book to the reader, red line. If I'm a library that brokers reader-to-reader networks, blue line. So this is about creating communities. This is about creating items that are not exclusive, where nobody competes, that are versatile and easy to consume, and we have network effects. And when I do this really well, I create a large amount of users and a lot of networks among those users. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, one-on-one. And when they're finished, we create content. I think YouTube. I give the world a video platform. Nobody's excluded. Nobody competes. It's easy to use. It gets better the bigger it is. Users come up. The more users, the better. Users are connected. And when they're finished, there's a massive video platform. At some point, this flips around. And this is why Skype, WhatsApp, and so on are worth so much money. It's not the left, but it's the right side. Maybe in the future, I don't come to a library because of the books, but the community that's connected to you. With all these readers, they all have this interest, and I really like to talk to that community. To give you an idea, at the moment, our bread and butter business is to educate students. We now do student design jams. We've got companies spending up to $50,000 for a day to talk and interact with 100 digital natives. They come to us because of the community that we give them access to. Anyone cycling? 1, 2. So many of you might use an app called Strava. Strava is an app where you can record how far you go in comparison to your own previous track record or to others. The guy who created Strava says, when I've got 10 million cyclists, I sell the whole lot to Google or Facebook. The app is peanuts. I just use the app to create a community. That's what we call social capital. So in this digital world, increasingly, companies try to create social capital. It's not the automation of their service, but it's a community that I've got access to. So whoever has got access to the next lot of entrepreneurs and digital minds will have a massive competitive advantage. So this is the encouragement to create social capital and to become better the bigger you are. And this could be anything. It could be peer-to-peer book exchange. So I don't return the book to the library, but to a peer, and we hand over ownership. It could be an emerging community, readers like me, or it could be access to experts. I'm so-and-so. I really want to know who is an expert in Brisbane. Well, you see what people are reading. And those people who are reading, are they willing to make themselves available? And would you identify myself based on my reading patterns? And could you broker access to me? And am I willing to do this? Could you be a broker to my services? So this is far beyond the traditional model, but this is where you create social capital. To bring this to an end, if we run a library like Uber, that means there's no more ownership. We're just a facilitator between assets and consumers. Etoro, for example, is a financial trading platform. In the old days, you go to your banker and you ask your banker, where should I invest my money? Today, you go to etoro.com and you can see how the most successful peers invest their money. I don't trust the banker in their suit. I trust the guy who makes a lot of money. Copy, paste, invest my money like the most successful consumer. This is how Etoro works. So this is where I don't have to own an expert. I have people who provide that sort of expertise. This is the bank without an investment banker. Idle assets. Idle assets is a bit like what we saw in Bucharest. I come to you because you wait at a train station. What you see on the far left is Philadelphia at a train station. The New York Underground, you might have seen this, where I provide books underground. So you get, I think, 10 pages for free and then can borrow the book. So I give you a teaser. And now you are idle. I was in Gothenburg, and they put a gym in a train. Well, when you're 1 hour on the train, you might as well exercise. So you're an idle asset, like you will be an idle asset in the car in the future. So I come to you, and I support you. But I take part in your life. I don't expect that you come to me. Amazon, as you might know, since the 1st of May, Amazon delivers parcels to your car. So you order something and say, I'm too busy, please send it to my car. DHL has a digital key. You get a notification. Before Christmas, the idea to pick up the parcel from your car if you want to return something. I'm too busy, dress didn't fit, I'm a QT, pick up the parcel at the car park. Again, I come to you, you don't come to me. So you can see it's always the same design principle, whether it's a digital or the physical world. Last item, which is maybe the most interesting and design-intensive one, when we create entire new products. The oyster farm in Tasmania puts little sensors in the soil and is selling oysters to Woolies and Coles and data to someone who wants to know about the conditions. Your car will know when you use the windscreen wiper, so I know where it rains. Who would like to buy data around where it rains? That's like an eBay for data. So this is about, when companies talk about big data, they think about, I need an analyst who can do some data mining. In the future, we've got data economists who look at the data that you've got and ask themselves, what can I do with the data? Who would like to purchase that sort of data? So data becomes a tradable item. So to summarize this for libraries, I gave you 7 ideas. So what could be a digital mind? And here are 7 interpretations of what you could do with all of this. So you can see, you can, with a bit of mindfulness, develop thinking in this kind of digital world and unpack these big design principles. Big takeaways. I believe the future is less about being efficient, but much more about staying relevant. And this digital world means the disruption is more on the relevance of our revenue or service than based on our cost efficiency. I gave you 7 ideas for digital mind. And I think what we all collectively have to do is to reduce innovation latency, meaning to do environmental sensing really well, to understand and overcome, I don't know what I don't know, to understand what could I do with those new opportunities and to implement them. Again, Codec died not because they were operationally not efficient, the innovation latency was just far too long. So that's what I wanted to share today. As highlighted before, we have a little podcast called Digital Week. And it was largely driven by the desire to come to you. So you don't know what you don't know. So every Friday, for you on the way home, we create 12 minutes of inspiration. So with German precision, we've got 6 minutes for Q&A. Thank you. Any questions, comments, critical thoughts?
Guess it's me then, Michael.
Sure.
So I guess in the context of your service experience of libraries, and we've got a crowd of them here, I'm going to put myself on the spot and say, what's your current experience of your academic library, and what's your one wish for improvement of service?
I think the idea of proactive service provision, so that I have to go less to the library, but the library really comes to me. So if I shape, like what we've done now, a new degree around innovation, I wish I very proactively would get some ideas, and someone who proactively, not reactively, contributes services in that sort of context, not just for me, but also for our students, and where possible allows highly personalized services, where we have to use automated solutions and then to personalize. So our students, our master students, they typically are working. They might work in a mining site, on a mining company or financial service provider. They all share an interest for innovation. Could I imagine a world where I drop parts of my life and you provide advice that is highly personalized? So this idea of mass personalization, that would be for me my biggest wish. Proactive mass personalization.
I was just going to ask the question of what example have you seen in the libraries you've interacted with where you think they are on track to do this, and what do you think is the lifespan of the profession of librarian?
Yes, so with the second one, you could, it's a bit like I think Bill Gates said, we might need banking, we don't need banks. So I believe we need some service that is like what libraries offer right now. I assume, and I'm quite sure, that a lot of different existing and new entities provide that sort of service in the future. So I think library-like service will survive. I'm not sure if libraries in its current form will survive. I would struggle to highlight these are the libraries that do an outstanding job. So we have a bit of a project with the state library around the future of libraries, and we try to broker the connection between libraries and big consumers like schools, and make libraries accessible to schools and embed Australia Post. So the idea is that books physically come to you on demand or as delight and as surprise. But these are new solutions in the making. And what I showed you with Philadelphia and New York were examples where really the library is leaving its ground and like a pop-up library comes to where people are idle. That's not specific for university libraries, but I think this idea of coming to you digitally and physically, I think is an idea that we'll see more of in the future.
So what do you think about the idea of Amazon opening a bookstore?
Yes, I saw that.
Bookstore.
Yeah, I saw that. I think a year ago someone predicted who's the most successful retailer, and it was not Amazon, but was Macy's, so someone who has a hybrid model. People predicted that Amazon will buy parts of the US Postal Office just to have physical infrastructure. So the current prediction is that future models are hybrid, digital and physical. And organization with a pure digital footprint were not successful. So I think that's Amazon's experiment. What does it mean to have physical presence? So I wasn't surprised. And I guess Amazon will probably partner more with others. It's like what eBay is doing with Woolies. You buy on eBay, but you can ship your items to any Woolworths outlet. So these are all attempts to bring the digital and the physical world together.
I hope my personal trainer's getting these steps on.
Where are your staff? I'm just wondering about the opportunity for libraries to partner in innovation with other areas. Now, you're doing that in your own right, talking about the different entities with whom you're working. What about libraries?
I think libraries have an amazing opportunity, and it's this business model what people call a facilitator. So what Uber, Airbnb are doing, where they really facilitate interactions between two communities. And I think what we try to advise to organizations, ask yourself, what's the sort of community that you have access to that nobody else has access to? So if I'm a bank, I hand out mortgages, I'm close to homeowners. If I'm a car insurance company, I'm close to car owners. The question is, or if I'm a university, I'm close to digital natives. What is the sort of community that you're close to? And what do you know about this community, or what sub-communities could you form? And I could see how libraries, as a broker to highly specialized communities, are crucial to Australia's innovation system. But that requires an appetite to really think about social capital and being willing to share or provide access to your community. I'll give you another example. We work with retirement villages. And instead of saying, I just build physical infrastructure, you move in and I charge you rent, they think about, we become a gatekeeper to certain community. Who else wants to talk to people in that age group? People who provide travel services or educational services or entertainment services. But I, as a retirement village, I'm closer to a certain sub-community. And I think for libraries, the question is, what's the sort of community that you're close to? And this is what I see as social capital. So you could give them access to a lot of ideators, to a lot of creative people. If this now happens on the physical space of a library or somewhere else, I think it's a different question. Do you have a question? Because you still might be confused, but hopefully on a higher level, yeah?
Just one more question. I heard some architects speaking recently about the library and the periods that had been through, and describing the library as a place now as an experience.
Yeah.
So this interesting thing, I mean, we still get it at my libraries, you know, over 1 million students through the door a year. And they're talking about the library as an experience. And I guess I'm linking that to your freed up hours because you're not driving your car or whatever it might be. And there's that sense of community in place that still matters, you know, as contrasted to library as a service or library as a collection.
Yeah. I'm most definitely not an expert in that space, but I think it requires a bit of trial and error. So if I go back to my let's say, Woolworths example, Woolworths now has a lot of supermarkets where you get sushi or a flat white. And the idea is to create more experience than just pure convenience. This is not always successful. And so the question is, how much experience do we want and how much convenience do we want? And sometimes the same customer just wants convenience. I know exactly what I want, and sometimes I want experience. I got a flight center, I want to book a business trip versus I want to book my honeymoon. And so I think it's not just about providing experience, it's about providing experience when it matters. And then in other times, convenience when it matters. And to very proactively sense when is the interaction convenience driven and when is it experience driven. So I wouldn't put all my eggs into this all about the experience.
I think we'll have to stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Very thought-provoking.
Thank
We
you.
have Sue here has a small gift. And
Thank
she
you.
can explain the...
I shouldn't donate this then.
In the theme of robotics today, I have a very special gift for Michael, and it's a Teach Yourself the Robot Dance mug.
Oh, I love dancing. Thank you.
So you may not use it as a mug, but we hope it gives you some inspiration anyway, and a few other things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sue. I appreciate this.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.